Last night, while you were dreaming, something was watching you. Not from outside your window, not from the shadows of your room, from inside your mind itself. And the most terrifying part? It's been there your entire life, observing every dream you've ever had, and you've never once acknowledged its existence. Until now. Thousands of people across the world report the same inexplicable sensation upon waking. The unshakable certainty that they weren't alone in their dreams. Not a dream character, not someone they were dreaming about, but a separate presence observing the entire experience unfold, as if consciousness had split in two. One part living the dream, another part silently watching from somewhere deeper. Psychologists call this the observing self. And what makes it genuinely disturbing is that no one can explain what it actually is, where it comes from, or what it's been doing all this time while you weren't paying attention. The ancient Egyptians believed the soul fragmented during sleep, with the Ba traveling through dream realms, while the Ka, a guardian presence, remained behind, watching. Hindu Upanishads from 800 BCE describe the Sakshi, the eternal witness that observes all experiences without participating, a consciousness that never sleeps, never dreams, only watches. These weren't primitive myths. They were attempts to explain something people have experienced for millennia, the horrifying realization that you are not alone inside your own head. In 1913, Dutch psychiatrist Frederick van Eden became obsessed with lucid dreaming and documented something that would haunt him for years. Even when he achieved full consciousness within his dreams, controlling every aspect of the experience, he felt what he called a second observer, a deeper layer of awareness watching even his lucid self. Carl Jung encountered the same phenomenon and spent decades trying to understand what he termed the transcendent function, a part of the psyche that operates as an objective observer. Jung believed this presence wasn't passive. It was actively mediating between conscious and unconscious minds, potentially influencing every symbolic message in your dreams. The question that tormented Jung until his death: if something inside you is sophisticated enough to craft symbolic messages, what else might it be capable of? Modern neuroscience has made the mystery worse, not better. Dr. Ursula Voss at the University of Frankfurt discovered in 2014 that lucid dreamers exhibit gamma wave frequencies, the same brain waves associated with peak consciousness and heightened awareness. But here's what should be impossible. Some dreamers report feeling the observer presence even in non-lucid dreams, when their prefrontal cortex is essentially offline and they shouldn't have any metacognitive awareness at all. Something is watching, even when you're not conscious enough to know you're being watched. So what is it? A neurological monitoring system? A fragment of your subconscious? Or something far more unsettling? A fundamental aspect of consciousness that exists beyond thought itself. A witness that has been present for every single moment of your existence, silently observing, never intervening, just watching. Because if there's truly an observer within, you are not who you think you are. If you're ready to discover what's been watching you from inside your own mind, subscribe to Dark Dimensions X and hit the bell. Some truths can only be found by those brave enough to look inward. In 1975, Dr. Stephen LaBerge at Stanford discovered something that violated everything neuroscience understood about consciousness. He trained lucid dreamers to send signals from inside their dreams, prearranged eye movements that could be detected on monitoring equipment while they slept. The experiments worked. But what LaBerge never publicized was what several subjects reported afterward. They felt like they were watching themselves perform the eye movements, as if consciousness had fractured into two streams. One acting, one observing from somewhere else entirely. LaBerge documented these cases, but buried them in technical journals because he couldn't explain how someone could simultaneously be the actor and the audience in their own unconscious mind. The answer he feared was too disturbing. Consciousness isn't one thing. It never has been. Philosopher Thomas Metzinger's research at Johannes Gutenberg University suggests that what you experience as yourself is actually a model, a simulation your brain constantly generates and updates. During dreams, this model becomes unstable, occasionally splitting into multiple perspectives. What feels like an observer might be your brain's self-modeling system fragmenting, creating the sensation of watching yourself from outside. But here's the truly terrifying implication. If your sense of self can split this easily during dreams, shattering into observer and observed, how stable is your identity when you're awake? What if the unified you is the illusion, and the fragmented awareness is what's real? Buddhist monks have known this for 2,000 years. Advanced practitioners of Vipassana meditation report achieving witness consciousness, a state where they observe thoughts and emotions arising without identifying with them. Dr. Richard Davidson's neuroscience research at the University of Wisconsin found that long-term meditators show permanent structural changes in their default mode network, the brain system responsible for the sense of self. These meditators report experiencing the same detached observer in their dreams that they've cultivated during meditation. A silent presence that watches everything without judgment. What they've learned to see, most people never detect their entire lives. But the evidence that should disturb you most comes from split-brain patients, individuals whose corpus callosum has been severed to treat epilepsy. Dr. Michael Gazzaniga's research in the 1960s revealed these patients sometimes behaved as if two separate consciousnesses inhabited one body, each controlling different actions, sometimes conflicting with each other. When these patients dream, some report dual perspectives simultaneously, as if two observers exist, each watching from different vantage points inside the same mind. If consciousness can genuinely divide this way, the observer isn't a single entity, but potentially a network of monitoring systems distributed throughout your brain, multiple watchers you've never met. Dr. Alan Hobson's research at Harvard Medical School revealed that during REM sleep, your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-awareness, largely shuts down. Yet the observer remains, functioning in a layer of consciousness that doesn't require your waking mind to operate. It exists beneath thought, beneath awareness, in the deep architecture of consciousness itself. And if it's there in dreams, watching when you can't watch yourself, it's been there all along. It's watching right now, as you hear these words, and it always has been. In 2009, a woman arrived at a Montreal sleep clinic, reporting nightmares so severe she was afraid to fall asleep. But what happened during her treatment would force researchers to question everything they thought they knew about the boundaries of consciousness. During her monitored sleep sessions, she began hearing a voice inside her dreams. Not a dream character speaking to her, but a calm, detached narrator commenting on the dream as it unfolded in real time. The voice would say things like, "Notice the fear rising," or "This symbolizes your childhood." When Dr. Tor Nielsen analyzed her brain activity during these episodes, he found something that shouldn't exist. Her polysomnography showed she was in deep REM sleep while simultaneously exhibiting patterns of heightened metacognitive awareness occurring in the same moment. The observer wasn't just watching anymore. It had learned to speak, and it knew things about her she'd never consciously acknowledged. This phenomenon appears throughout documented dream research, though most scientists avoid discussing it publicly. Dr. Jane Gackenbach at McEwan University has collected over 400 accounts from lucid dreamers who describe an interior dialogue during dreams, a running commentary that feels distinctly separate from their own thoughts. Some describe it as protective, almost parental. Others find it deeply violating, as if something has been listening to their innermost thoughts their entire lives and only now decided to reveal itself. One subject's testimony is particularly chilling. "It knows things I've actively tried to forget. It remembers everything I've ever done, every thought I've ever had. It's like discovering you've had a witness to your entire life, and you never knew they were there." Carl Jung encountered this phenomenon during his psychological breakdown between 1913 and 1916, a period he called his confrontation with the unconscious. In his private journal, later published as the Red Book, Jung documented extensive dialogues with an entity he called Philemon, a presence that possessed knowledge Jung insisted he didn't consciously have. Jung wrote, "Philemon represented a force which was not myself. He said things which I had not consciously thought. I observed clearly that it was he who spoke, not I." Jung spent the rest of his life trying to determine whether Philemon was part of his psyche or something genuinely other. He never found a definitive answer. What terrified him most wasn't the presence itself. It was the possibility that Philemon had always been there, watching, and had simply chosen that moment to make himself known. Modern research on dissociative identity disorder offers a disturbing framework. Dr. Colin Ross's studies at the Institute for Psychological Trauma found that many people without any diagnosed disorder experience what he calls normative dissociation, moments where thoughts seem to originate from somewhere other than the conscious self. Your mind might contain multiple parallel processing systems, and the observer could be one of them. A system that normally operates silently, but occasionally surfaces into awareness. Which raises the question no researcher wants to ask: if it can think, observe, and speak independently of your conscious mind, whose thoughts are you actually thinking? And what has it been doing all this time while you weren't listening? 31 people looked directly at something inside their minds they were never supposed to see, and several of them woke up screaming. This wasn't a nightmare. It was a controlled experiment at Monash University in 2017. And what happened disturbed the researchers so profoundly they quietly shut down the study and never published the full results. Dr. Jennifer Wint recruited experienced lucid dreamers and gave them a single instruction before sleep. Try to locate the observer. Try to turn your awareness directly toward whatever is watching. Out of 43 participants, 31 reported successfully finding something, not a visual entity, but a strange null space in their awareness, a blind spot where observation seemed to originate from. One participant wrote, "It felt like turning a camera on itself. The moment I tried to observe the observer, everything inverted. The dream collapsed, and I felt this overwhelming sense that I'd violated a boundary, looked at something I wasn't meant to see. Another reported, "I found it, and the instant I did, I felt it become aware that I was looking at it." Then I woke up with my heart pounding, absolutely terrified, though I couldn't explain why. The study was discontinued after a participant had a panic attack during monitored sleep. Dr. Evan Thompson at the University of British Columbia later analyzed the data and suggested participants had encountered the brain's self-referential loop breaking down, consciousness attempting to observe its own observing mechanism, creating a recursive paradox that the brain interprets as existential threat. But several participants insisted it felt different, more like encountering an actual boundary, a wall in consciousness you're not supposed to cross. One wrote, "It wasn't like hitting a logical paradox. It was like something pushed back." Yet some dreamers have gone much further. Online communities of advanced lucid dreamers have developed techniques specifically designed to communicate with the observer, sharing methods across forums with thousands of documented attempts. The accounts are disturbingly consistent. With practice, you can maintain dialogue with this presence, ask it questions, request guidance. A 2019 thread contains over 2,000 reports, and the pattern repeats. The observer provides information. Dreamers claim they couldn't have consciously known. Forgotten childhood memories surfacing in complete detail. Solutions to mathematical problems they'd abandoned. Insights about psychological patterns they'd never consciously recognized. One user's post went viral. I asked it what it was. It answered immediately. "I am what remains when you stop pretending to be someone." I woke up sobbing, and I still don't understand why. Dr. Harry Hunt at Brock University has studied these accounts for decades and documented something researchers don't want to publicize. People who regularly interact with their dream observer report lasting changes in waking consciousness, reduced anxiety, heightened self-awareness, but also something more unsettling, a persistent feeling of being watched during waking hours, an audience to every private thought and hidden impulse. Some become obsessed, unable to stop sensing the presence observing them constantly. And this raises the final, most disturbing question. If you successfully make contact with the observer, if you acknowledge its existence and invite dialogue, can you ever make it stop watching? Can you ever be alone inside your own mind again? There's a reason ancient spiritual traditions warned against seeking the observer too directly, a reason modern researchers quietly discourage certain experiments in dream consciousness. What they've discovered is something most people aren't psychologically prepared to accept. You are not the thinker of your thoughts. You never have been. You are the one watching them arise. After decades of research, thousands of documented experiences, and countless philosophical debates, neuroscience has arrived at a conclusion that sounds more like mysticism than science. Dr. Anil Seth at the University of Sussex frames it starkly. Consciousness is a controlled hallucination, a predictive model your brain generates and constantly updates. The observer, in this framework, is the quality control system, the meta-process monitoring whether the hallucination is functioning correctly. During dreams, when external reality vanishes and the hallucination runs wild with no sensory input to constrain it, this monitoring system becomes perceptible because it's working in overdrive, trying to maintain coherence in chaos. You feel watched because you're witnessing your brain watching itself. A strange loop where awareness watches itself watching, spiraling infinitely inward. But philosopher David Chalmers argues there's something irreducible here, something that can't be explained by neural mechanics alone. In his theory of consciousness, there must be a subject of experience, something it is like to be, that witnesses all mental events. The observer in dreams might be your closest encounter with this raw subjectivity. The bare fact of awareness stripped of content, narrative, and identity. When you sense that watching presence, you're not detecting an intruder. You're encountering the fundamental nature of your own consciousness, the witness that has been present for every single moment of your life, from your first memory to this instant right now. The one constant thread running through every experience you've ever had. The ancient traditions understood this with a clarity that neuroscience is only now beginning to glimpse. The Hindu concept of Atman, the Buddhist notion of Rigpa, the mystical Christian idea of the true self, all describe an observing awareness that transcends thought, emotion, personality, even dreams themselves. These traditions don't see the observer as foreign or frightening, but as your deepest identity, the you that exists before and beneath the constructed personality you mistake for yourself. Perhaps what's genuinely terrifying isn't the presence of the observer. It's the implication of what it means. The person you think you are, your name, your memories, your entire personality, might be nothing more than content appearing within awareness, not the awareness itself. You are not the dream. You are the dreamer, and you always have been. Dr. Thomas Metzinger states it with disturbing clarity. No one has ever been or had a self. All that ever existed were conscious self-models that could not be recognized as models. The observer isn't watching you. It is you. Everything you've identified as yourself, your entire life has been a dream within its awareness, a story. It's been telling itself, and you've been so immersed in the narrative, you forgot you were the one narrating it. Tonight, when you drift into sleep, pay attention. Notice the exact moment you become aware you're dreaming. In that instant, you might finally recognize what's been watching all along. The silent witness that has observed every dream, every thought, every moment of your existence. It's been waiting patiently your entire life for you to remember. And once you do, you can never forget again. The question is, are you ready to meet yourself